Welcome to Regent Park TV. In today's video entitled Regent Park Goes to City Hall, we will see community deputations in support of city funding to the Social Development Plan. The video provides insights on how a community can organize and advocate for resources.
Despite the billion-dollar investment in the Regent Park physical development plan for the new buildings, many community members have long argued that the Regent Park social development plan, which was passed by the city in 2007, has long suffered from lack of resources.
In an effort to change this and provide much-needed resources to the social development plan, the community is advocating for funding from the City of Toronto. In this video, you will see the deputations of the Regent Park community members to the City of Toronto Budget Committee held on January 20, 2020.
So, of course, we're here today to support the Social Development Plan in Regent Park. I'm so glad to have all these young people out with me. My hat's off to them. It's all about them. This is for them. Hopefully, with what happened today, you know, the councillors will support the Social Development Plan and allot the funding to Regent Park to change the atmosphere. We've already changed the infrastructure of Regent Park. It's beautiful, you know, the buildings are there, the infrastructure's there, the rec center's there, the pool's there, we have paint box. Well, let's now start investing in the actual children.
Hi, my name is Salem Scott, and I'm 13 years old from Regent Park. And I'm here with my peers to talk about the Social Development Plan and the Community Benefits Agreement, which is for Regent Park. We need your support to create a sports team for the children and youth of Regent Park. Right now, I'm working with Paintbox to create a safe space for the youth of Regent Park so that they can come and be creative and express themselves. My concern is that there aren't enough spaces we can go in the community for our children and youth to go. If we had enough funding, we could get a chance to introduce the Social Development Plan. With your support, by funding the Social Development Plan and the Community Benefits Agreement, we will make it possible for the children and youth of Regent Park to reach their full potential. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and thank you, Councillor Wong Tam, and your fellow councillors for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you for giving me the chance to speak today. I'll just talk to you guys about the Social Development Plan and what it means to like most of us here, youth, because it's like building us for the future, giving us somewhere where we want to go for sports and other things like that. Like, because it will help us in the future to know where we want to go and to know what we want to do. Like, because sports is a big thing in youth, because youth, they evolve through sports, and sports helps them a lot through like terms, like emotional terms and stuff like that. So I'm saying, like, if like the Social Development Plan, as my sister was saying, like if we get funded for that, it'd be a big help for most of the youth in Regent Park. And yeah, thank you everyone for letting me speak today.
Hi, my name is Liberty Hesse, and I'm 13 years old, girl born and raised in Regent Park. I'm here to talk about the development plan and the community benefits agreement. We want your support to bring more programs and opportunities to the youth in Regent Park community. We enjoy extracurricular activities like basketball, volleyball, soccer, and swimming and dance. We would like it to be continued, but we want to be involved in things that give us experience and opportunities for when we get older. These programs are not just for the kids living in Regent Park today, but it's also for the kids in the future. I would like it if you take what I just said. I don't know what to say. I'm done.
Hi, my name is Abba. I'm 14 years old, and I go to Central Tech, and I live in Regent Park. And right now, I'm on the basketball team and football team, and I'm here to support Regent Park Social Development Plan. I think it would be good if we got more sports teams in my community because it would bring our communities together, and me and my peers would not have to travel far distances to go do the things we love. Creating sports teams will create job opportunities for the youth and young adults in Regent Park. If you help us create a football team, it would bring together our communities and communities close by, like Bleecker, Moss Park, and Esplanade. This will lessen the rivalries we have for each other. Please support our community and the social development plan so we can make Regent Park safer for everyone. Thank you, counselors, for listening to me.
Hi, my name is Natir, and I am 10 years old. I've been living in Regent Park for my whole life. It has made me become a better person, and I like living in Regent Park because it has a lot of sports and programs, after school programs I really enjoy. I would like to see more programs that help building us to become a better person. I would like to see programs that will make me become a better person and teach us how to be our own boss. Thank you for letting me speak.
Hi, my name is Sakari. I live in Regent Park. I'm 10 years old. I'm here to support the social development plan for Regent Park. I would like to see more sports teams in Regent Park, especially football. A football team would help us support each other and bring our community together. Having a football team will keep me focused and away from gangs. I want to grow up and prove my teachers wrong that I can make it and go to university and play football. Thank you to all the, I don't know that word, for taking the time to listen to me.
Good morning. Thank you very much for giving this youth the opportunity to speak. My name is Marianne Scott, and I am here in support of the Social Development Plan. I know by now you remember who I am and see that my passion for young people is very vibrant, and I want to create positive outcomes for them at every avenue. One area I want to focus on is sport and employment. I feel they go hand in hand. I understand that the city does not fund sports teams / leagues, but I just need a hand up to get the ball literally rolling. I'm exploring other funding sources as I move through this process. Sports teams opens up so much doors for children and youth. It can lead to employment, higher education, and the possibility of representing our country, as my daughter Charity Williams has been able to do. Some of these children present today was present through Regent Park Recreation Center summer camps to see Charity and her team off at City Hall 4 years ago for Rio, thanks to the mayor. And she was one to them. It was her early involvement in Parks and Recs that allowed her to reach her full potential. Sports, as we know it, is good for the body, mind, and soul, and is also healing. These children that are here today, unfortunately, have experienced trauma. Sadly, from what the forecast shows us, we'll continue to have these lived experiences of death due to violence around them. I want to change that outcome for these youth, one youth at a time, and I leave no one behind. I am confident I can do that with the help from you today. The Social Development Plan and Revitalization can't just be about investing in infrastructure. We need to invest in young people, in lives. I have started a movement at City Hall. I hope I don't ever want to come before you without the future, which are these youth. I decided the day their friend Makai died a year and a half ago, a day after he turned 15, that I was going to do everything in my powers to limit the negative experiences, and I hope to do this through sport with them. This is what they asked for. We need to listen more to our young people because they know what they want. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Hello, my name is Marcus Grandison, and I am a Simon Fraser University football coach. I also am a former Toronto Argonaut, and I am a community organizer. I'm from the Jane and Finch neighborhood, which is also a priority neighborhood, just like Regent Park, and I'm here to show you an example of 15 years. I was just like these young men and women 15 years ago. Football had allowed me to create relationships that I still have to this very day through football. It brought me social skills that I was able to develop through going into different environments and meeting different people. And I feel when my auntie came to me and she wanted me to speak to you guys, I felt like it was extremely important to know my side of the story and just looking at an actual representation of what youth football programs or youth programs can do, especially in sport. So I just really wanted to say thank you for your time, and that we should be able to look deeply into these young men and young women's futures. And I just feel like sports is a great way for us to actually keep intact and mentor them, because we don't even understand, maybe just 2 minutes of a conversation during practice is that 2 minutes of conversation that young man or that young woman needed for that day to actually get their mind right. So thank you very much. I won't take too much of your time, but thank you for letting me talk.
Thank you. Is there any questions from any of the councillors who would like? Councillor Wong-Tam.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the deputants for coming out to speak today. With respect to the social development plan, it is a critical component of having that plan funded in order for the Regent Park overall revitalization to be successful. Is that not correct? Anyone can answer that, please.
Yes, definitely it is. We know that a lot has been invested in Regent Park. We see this shiny building, it looks very nice, and we're happy and proud of that. But we need to now invest in the social side of revitalization, and that is creating more opportunities for youth. It's creating more safe spaces, as Salem is doing with Paintbox, and it's also creating legacies. We need positive legacies in Regent Park. We don't need to remember all the negative that took place in the last 30, 40 years in Regent Park. Let's create legacies. Let's create memories. Let's create a community that can come together, the old, the young, and through sport. And we know that, creating sports teams will also create employment. It'll create mentorship, and it's going to be it's a win-win for the whole community overall.
So just to break it down, the investments in the brick and the mortar and the physical buildings in Regent, that was largely done with Daniels Corporation as well as TCHC and the city and probably some orders of government all coming together. And that was millions of dollars invested in buildings.
Yes.
Is that correct? And with the social development plan, that is an investment in people. So it's about programs, it's about jobs development, it's about skill development, it's about pathways to education and out of poverty and into hopefully prosperity. Is that correct?
Definitely. And
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. And we know the price tag of what it's taken and what it will take to to finish the revitalization of Regent Park, and we don't need that much. We don't need millions and millions of dollars to build these programs that will be, everlasting for these youth, and that will, build outcomes for them right away. These outcomes that we're looking at, we want them to last long, just as the swim program that was developed and endorsed by you councillors for Regent Park, which is wonderful, and we totally appreciate that. And some of these children here actually are in that swim program and are able to, to use that pool in Regent Park and learn how to swim. But it's important to create more avenues for them, and permanent avenues, and avenues that not only involves the youth, but I remember I spoke to some of the new tenants in Regent Park who are seniors, and they talked about, I'll bake some muffins for that football game. We'll be out there cheering. And when I heard these older people say that, to me, I'm looking at that's going to bring the new faces of Regent Park and the old, and bring the young together. And I feel that sport is something that can bring together everyone, regardless of religion, race, sexual orientation. Sport is something that brings together communities on a whole.
Yeah, thank you. And because the Regent Park revitalization, I think, formally began in 2007, it's a long time ago. It's now been 13 years of investing in the assets, the physical assets, the roads, the buildings, the aquatic center, the sports field. And at this juncture in time, we have an opportunity at the City of Toronto to actually fund the social development plan, which is about $635,000 compared to the millions that have already been invested. It's 13 years later, and we are now just talking about investing in people.
Yes.
Would you say it's a little bit late?
Definitely. It's definitely late. I mean, I think it's probably 30 years too late. Let's not, bring revitalization into the picture. I mean, for Regent Park, it's 30 years too late. A lot of lives lost. But I think that we are, at a point in time where we realize that it counts to invest in people. We've done the infrastructure part of Regent Park, and who lives in Regent Park is grateful and glad for that. But now we need to look at the people. We need to look at the young people who are behind me, who want a future, who want to be able to live and not have to, think about not living to see 15, not living to see 16. We need to look at these youth who they want to live, they want to go to university, they want to go to college, they want to play sports, they want to represent their country, they want to live. Yeah. And the only way to do that is to invest in them. We have to invest in these youth. They are our future, and they are what counts.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Layton?
Yes, thank you very much. This will just be really brief. A lot of commitments were made to the Regent Park community when the revitalization started. Do you recall when the commitment was made to make investments like these into the Regent community? Was that done? It could have been as much as a decade ago, I'd imagine. I'm not even sure I was around as a city councillor when those early commitments were made. Do you know when the commitment was made by the city to undertake this sort of social development plan and bring some social investment in the region?
I think it was during the start of revitalization, and it was sort of an ongoing commitment. But it wasn't until quite recently that with the social development plan being kind of rolled out, that the talk has been the action, that the talk has been there, but now it's time to move to action. And it's been slow, definitely. I mean, we've seen a lot change in Regent Park with regards to the face of Regent Park, but we haven't seen much change with regards to the people and to making the lives better, especially for our young people. Unfortunately, over the last 10 years, there's been so much lives lost. 3 at 15 years old, Celine White, he was 15 years old. 2 years later, Tyson Bailey, who went to Central Tech, who was a football player, who was already looking to be scouted to universities in the States. He was gone at 15 in the same building as Celine White. And then a year and a half ago, Mackay, who lost his life a day after turning 15. And, the reality is we have all these, beautiful infrastructure in Regent Park, which these children are really grateful for. I know they are. But the underlying disparity of gangs and gun violence still exists. And my goal is to have none of these children behind me ever have the thought of wanting to pick up a gun or the need to pick up a gun and to kill someone or to rob or to sell drugs. That's what I'm starting. This is why I bring these children down here, so you guys could see their faces and get to know them and see them on the street and come to their football games, come to their soccer games, come to their basketball games and cheer them on and let them know that there is hope for them. They don't have to turn to gangs. They don't have to turn to guns. They can actually live a life and become a teenager and become an adult and choose to own their home, maybe in Regent Park, be employed there, be social workers, be youth mentors, be doctors, lawyers, and psychologists. They have that. That's actually their given right as being a Canadian citizen. They have that right. We need to allot them that.
When we go through our budget, we have these categories of funded priorities and then ones that might be in the plan but end up in the non-funded category. And I think oftentimes maybe we lose sight of what the impacts are when someone so quickly clicks that mouse to move it into the unfunded category.
Yes.
But it's moments like these that I think we're reminded why having public deputations and the opportunity for these strong young voices to come out and speak their mind and remind us about why we're here. I think that this just demonstrates how important this type of forum is to us getting our priorities right. So thank you all so much for coming out and reminding us.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, and I want to thank you too. Congratulations for all of you coming out and speaking so well to us. That's great.
It's quite an ambitious plan. It's a network that brings together agencies and residents from across the community, and it needs it's growing a lot of energy in the community, as you've seen, and it needs a lot of support. So again, just ask for your support to put that funding ask inside the budget, so that it can be passed and that the support can be given to the community. So I'm a co-chair of, there's 4 different working groups. I'm co-chair of the community building working group in that plan, and this is Nayeon Kim, and she's the co-chair of the safety working group. So I'm going to play her message to you. She's not able to be here today.
Hi, I'm here to ask you to support the budget for Regent Park Social Development Plan. My name is Nayeon Kim, and I am a resident in Ward 13, and I'm a co-chair for Safety Network out of the Social Development Plan. When I moved to Regent Park 2 years ago, someone rushed over to introduce herself and invited me to a block party around the corner. She asked me to come out and meet new neighbors. That moment still stays with me. I wondered how many neighborhoods in Toronto could one expect that kind of welcome. After a few weeks following that warm welcome came a shooting in my back alley, and then another one on my street a few weeks later. When I went down to ask the police, who looked like a supervisor to me, what had just happened, he mentioned despite the revitalization, there are still bad people in our community and it's not a safe neighborhood. This summer, a bullet from another shooting went through my brother's car. And on the night of Christmas, I came home to see my street taped off for a crime investigation. And then on New Year's Day, we tragically lost a 21-year-old young man to a senseless shooting that marked the city's first homicide of the decade. In 2018, Toronto's homicide was a record high, at a rate of 3.11 per 100,000 people. Now that's higher than that of New York City. Regent Park is home to 10,000 Torontonians. Mothers in Regent Park are mourning. They're afraid to send their children to grocery stores. It's become normal to experience the abnormality of reliving trauma of losing their children or friends of their children in Regent. 60% of children under the age of 17 in Regent Park live in poverty, compared to 27% across Toronto. And while the educational attainment of residents in Regent Park is on par with the rest of Toronto, the average household here makes $42,000 when the rest of Toronto makes $60,000 on average. Through the Regent Park Social Development Plan, hundreds of residents have been coming out and spending countless afternoons and evenings to find solutions to these very issues that affect us every day. Addressing safety concerns and gun violence by reaching out to the most disengaged youth in our community and supporting mothers with resources. Creating more jobs and spaces for residents to connect in our community and improving access to information. Through this work, we're continuing to make sure that Regent Park is a community where everyone belongs. And as well, this social development plan model could be used to benefit the other upcoming revitalizations across the city. So I hope the committee will support this critical investment in our neighborhood. a neighborhood that has always been best known to be a closely knit community where neighbors look after each other, just like the day I moved to Regent Park 2 years ago. Thank you very much for your time today.
Questions?
I maybe just want to add briefly that so this network is growing. It's still fragile. People are putting a lot of effort into it, as she said, and they are doing that on the understanding that there has been commitments and promises made by the city that haven't been fulfilled in the past, and it's really important to get that funding in place so that that momentum can build. And it could well be relevant for neighborhoods across the city. This kind of thing, I'm not aware that it's been done before.
We'll have to wrap up. Thank you.
And it's very valuable.
Thank you. Councillor Wong-Tam.
Yes, thank you, Joe, for your deputation and for the deputations for those who are presented by video. With respect to the Regent Park revitalization being the first of the City of Toronto, Alexander Park and followed by Lawrence Heights, with respect to the social development plan that's required, if the City of Toronto does not fund the social development plan, which I believe was created and co-led by the City of Toronto and the community together, what message does that send to those who are actually in Alexander Park and Lawrence Heights for their massive TCHC revitalization?
Yeah, I think if they see that, like for this biggest revitalization in the city and the first, like you say, I think if they see that that commitment isn't there on the part of City Council, it will also be, it'll let the wind out of their sails a bit. I'm not sure exactly what kind of community momentum is building there, but I definitely see that in Regent Park there's a lot of potential, and I think that could be replicated elsewhere.
And with respect to the Regent Park being touted as this international success story, I know that the mayor has talked about it and the previous councillor, as well as Daniels Corporation's TCHC, it's oftentimes sort of held up as the example. Without the social development plan and the operationalization of that plan, do you think the City of Toronto and all the actors, such as the mayor and everybody else, even the local councillor, TCHC or Daniels, do you think we'd still be able to state that claim that we are an international success story?
I mean, you can see, like, there's a lot of good stuff happening. There's definitely things to point to for success that I've heard other community members mention. And there is this growing momentum of community coming together in a new way. Communities always come together, but there's some new things happening.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Inez Garcia. I'm a resident of Regent Park. I sit in many committees, the Safety Committee and the TCAC Tenant Council, RPNA, and Mothers of Peace, and many more other committees. The reason I'm here to talk about is poverty and safety. That's a huge concern in our community, as you guys know, aware of the trauma and all the death that has been happening, the gun violence in Regent Park. We have to look for a solution of how to go about and helping our young youth. We have, through the revitalization, there's been a new community center and an aquatic pool. Our youth do not get access to this community center. There's always a barrier around it. It's great that it's there through this whole revitalization. There's many wonderful things in the Regent Park, but there is a lot of barriers to our youth in our community, and for us as a parent to have grandkids or kids for the swimming pool, we always get the leftovers. I lived in Regent Park for many years. I love living in there. I get involved. I put my cents in. I try and do as much as I could for the safety of everyone. Like I said before, a lot of trauma. It's not just trauma for the victims that has passed away. There's trauma for us, the parents, and our youth that are going through a lot of the trauma. There is counseling only for a week, but what happens for the rest of the year, we're going through. It's not just the victim, it's us too as a victim of going through all this and seeing this when we hear the gun shootings. When you're sitting in your own home, and you have to call your kids and your friends and saying, is everyone okay? That's a huge concern in Regent Park. The other one is suicide. There's been many suicide in Regent Park that is not talked, is kept top secret. We as a community member, we have to educate ourselves, and there's so much work to do about this suicide and gun violence. As you guys are all aware, it's a multicultural community. There's different ways of talking among each other and trying to help each other and supporting each other and through workshops that it's needed a lot. Lack of no jobs for our young youth. We understand a lot of our youth or some of our youth are being into the system, but there's not given a second opportunity, and this is why a lot of our youth too, I don't condone of the gun violence and stuff, but at the same time, we have to help them to find jobs, and give them opportunities, because when we don't give them those opportunities, they're going back to where it's the wrong side of the road. I'm glad the police is there, but at the same time, we don't need no more police in the communities. We have our community police officers. Having more police, I understand it's their duty or their job to do, but at the same time, it has to be taught of how to talk to our young kids, how to communicate, the language. It's not about just going, hey, you know what are you doing here, when they know who is who. All this stuff, it brings a lot of barriers. And we have to support each other as sitting in the safety committee of bringing a lot of mentorships, workshops to educate ourselves as a parent and to teach our kids, our younger ones, because this is their future. And this is my biggest concern. Thank you.
My name is Gail Lynch. I am one of the co-chairs for the Regent Park Social Development Plan. Specifically, our focus is employment and economic development. So that alone will tell you why I'm here. When you talk about the issues in Regent Park, everyone would tell you those issues are systemic. And I just wanted to read a brief definition of systemic. A systemic failure may be defined as a failure due to flaws in a system. And we definitely have a flaw in that we are not getting the funding that we were expecting and that was promised to us. I love where I live. I live in Regent Park, and I'm an immigrant to this country. I've lived in this country longer than I've lived in my country of birth, so I consider myself a Canadian, and more importantly, a Regent Parker, if that is such a term. I love where I live, but 50% of my salary goes to my rent, which is difficult. That maybe I need to come back and depute on that. The point here is, though, as someone who's working, if my rent is 50% of my salary, what about somebody who is not? And certainly those are things to consider. When I first went to Regent Park, I found, as I walked in the elevators, of course, it was the worst place in Canada to live, and there was feces in the elevators. And I thought, oh my gosh, what an awful place for anyone to live. And then it would so happen, or fate would have it, that I now live in Regent Park. I love it. So thank you to the City of Toronto. A fantastic job in terms of the buildings. They're beautiful. Everybody says, oh, I love where I live now. However, there's more to Regent Park than just the beautiful buildings. There is the social development. And we have those systemic issues in Regent Park: poverty, racism, classism, Islamophobia, homophobia, and the list goes on. Social development helps us to now look at our people so that 20 years down the road, we don't become the Regent Park of old with these awful buildings and all of these systemic issues still with us. And I want to talk to you about the project that I'm working on. My focus is specifically economic development and employment. And one of the first things that we are looking at is a strategy to understand what is the need for the 16,000 plus people that will be living in Regent Park. So the strategy starts like this. Let's understand our community. Let's understand how many youth do we have in the community, how many persons with disabilities, and if you're a youth, what area of business are you interested in? Do you want to be a plumber? Do you want to be a lawyer? Do you want to be a computer programmer or coder? When we understand that, then we can go ahead and put them into some very specific groups. So we're going to have job fairs, but job fairs that are not the job fairs that you expect to see where you walk in the room and there's just a room full of people. It's very targeted and specific. So if you're into the arts, this is the area you go to. You have a mentor there. You have people who are within that industry who can help you with career pathing. You may have some information in terms of education that you can do. Very targeted and very specific, so that we are not saying, let's just fill jobs just because to make a number, to make the city look good, but to say, let's fill a job that is socially responsible to the community. It's not just focused on having a job, but that there is a social responsibility component to that job. That I can look at that job and say, this is actually the career that I'd like to have. I thought I wanted to be a painter, but of houses, but I realized I actually want to be a painter of murals. So this is the type of work that we are doing. I also want to talk about the people in Regent Park and the work that they're doing around social development. And there are many people in this audience who will tell you that they're on 50 or 60 or 20 or 30 committees, 3, 4, 5 meetings in a day. So we, the residents of Regent Park, are committed to our social development, and we need the funds to do that, as you promised. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Councillor Layton?
You ended on just the point I was going to ask about. So I asked the question earlier today in the morning session after some deputants from some fantastic youth from Regent, how long this has been going on for. None of us really know because it predated all of us. Some of these kids would have been like in diapers when this originally happened, but someone in the crowd wasn't and was around since the beginning. Sent me a document from 2007. How long have you been involved with this, or do you know when the city made the commitment to the people of Regent Park when they said, look, it's going to get painful when we move you out, but you're going to come back, there's going to be great buildings, and hey, we're going to do something more for you. We're going to have this social development plan in place.
I can't tell you the date of that, but I can tell you that there's a document because I saw that document. So if you'd like to have a copy of that document, I am sure that that absolutely happened.
I think that I'm looking at the document, which is the Regent Park Social Development Plan, and it's September 2007. We're talking like a long time ago, 15 years ago when this, or 13 years ago when that commitment was made to the people of Regent Park. And it's only now sort of starting to really ramp up. If I can say anything, Gail, it's keep up your efforts, because this is the type of thing that changes at the budget committee. This is, I think, an oversight on the part of staff to not fund it, and I really think that this has struck a chord with many people in the city of Toronto. We just need to hear more from you and from the people of Regent Park.
Yeah, agreed. And as far as the document is concerned, I'm going to go back and definitely take a look at that and get it to whoever it needs to. I don't think it was 2007, but I will definitely.
You know what would be helpful is if you sent it to the clerk, because then everyone gets a copy of it. It goes on the official record saying, here's where you made the promise. And it's going to be hard for us to look the other way.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, city councillors at the budget committee. I think some of my community members have said it all. I remember going to the local champions. It's a city-run program, sort of to make sure that neighborhoods like Regent Park, which are neighborhood improvement areas, that there was a strategy in place to sort of, and I've said this in many committee levels and many conversations here, that they wanted to activate people. And in many ways, when I went to that local champions program, I learned about the community development approach, which is what's called an asset-based community development, where you rely on each person's asset instead of look at only needs, look at only weaknesses in a community, but look at where strengths lie. In Regent Park, there are lots of community members with a lot of strengths. And I think you've succeeded in creating social cohesion. You do need the old residents and the new residents intermingling. Today, you've heard both sides. You've heard people who've just moved into Regent Park and people who've always been in Regent Park. Social cohesion is being built at a neighborhood level, and that's a success story. You've talked about how all this began. It began with residents who are interested in changing their neighborhood. And I think when I looked at the city of Toronto, the first thing I did was I went to your search items and I put in there Regent Park, and I just did the timeline upside down, and I looked at the first time Regent Park appeared in your timeline. And one of the fourth lines is Regent Park Social Development Plan. It's right there. It was approved by the Executive Committee in 2007, October 1st. And it talked about the vision of why a new community needed to be rebuilt. It talked about that this new community would stand on two legs, the first of which is physical development, and about $1 billion went through that. And the third was social development, and that also needed investments, and that also needed resources. Sadly, that coordination of putting resources to the social development plan was left to on the sidelines until it required a whole new process of refreshing. And when we did our new Regent Park Social Development Plan, we wanted to make sure that the new social development plan had teeth to it, right? That the promises of old was not only kept, that we created new structures for that. And the new structures said we needed this item to come back to City Council. It was on the outskirts, you could say, of Regent Park for a long time. And thankfully, through our councillors' efforts, we became engaged at the city process. We've seen one another at committees. And I remember much of your faces also at the last budget committee when we wanted to bring an item of importance to our neighborhood. Now we're back again. We're back again not to start something new, but to finish an old promise. And that promise requires resources. There's a lot of intricacies in City Council. One thing is we champion the cause day in and day out, and then we find out that the item is outside the budget process. And we asked ourselves, what's outside the budget process? I didn't even know there were two categories, which was called enhanced and new inside and enhanced new outside. And when we asked why outside, was it a click of a button of a mouse, as Councillor Mike Layton had said? Who made that consideration? I'm not quite sure. But the item comes back to you, councillors, who have to sort of juggle the priorities and make decisions. The decisions are quite hard, and you've heard a lot of committees and community members who gave you advice. But the advice here is one of revitalization, and one of the first revitalizations among many revitalizations. And how do you want to approach that? I remember in university reading a book which was called, it was about space and geography. And it talked about using public funds for private ends. And what we said was that's not going to happen to Regent Park, because this actually has two sides, physical development and social development, so that public funds could also be used for public ends.
You'll have to wrap up, please.
So in conclusion, we've done, there's a famous community development approach, which is areas of influence and areas of concern. I'm concerned about a lot of things, but I have influence on a few things. Today you have influence in changing Regent Park. I hope you exercise that rightfully. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I showed this flyer last time at the general government licensing because we are creating a new set of barriers for people to enter City Council. I think they're trying to incorporate artificial intelligence, et cetera, et cetera. My deputation is in support of the SDP, for which we have worked tirelessly since 2019. We are very disappointed that the SDP from 2007 only created 33 jobs. It's a very low number. The SDP development plan has 4 pillars. One of them is the communications committee. And as you can see on the flyer, posted again, we are inviting members of the community, young and adult, to become RPTV news team anchors and reporters and editors. No experience is necessary. Training will be provided, which is part of the SDP. We need the $2.5 million that will help to give chances to youth, because as you are aware, at the beginning of the year, we mourn Ahmed Jacquot. And it is a failure of the system. We couldn't have provided him with job opportunities. So here we are, and I'm doing it right here, right now. There's a camera over there recording me, because this will be uploaded at the Regent Park TV Focus YouTube channel. The RPTV is very progressive, since it connects with members of Regent Park to the 991 channel of Rogers Cable. Unfortunately, the old buildings of Regent Park do not have access to the 991 channel. Instead, it's connected to the intercom channel. We hope to overcome these inconveniences as we develop the Regent Park communications strategy. We are also going to be creating a website that will be our social hub, and we also going to allocate money to create a newsletter, which is in process right now in production. And lastly and not least is this, the RPTV, that will give training for young members of the community, and I'm here as a volunteer for them, speaking as, let's say, the Regent Park Neighborhood Association, and I'm very concerned that the SDP is not in the budget, and it should. I have with me a copy of the Toronto Police Services budget. Here we go. You know, they're asking for more money. Instead, we have asked time and time again, whenever we have an issue of violence, we should be investing twice the amount on community. And I'm sure Councilor Michael Layton can agree to that, because we have spoken to this matter at the Aboriginal Affairs Committee many times ago. So again, I'm here in support of this initiative that will be important for the community in terms of creating job opportunities, because all we do is talk. We're going to deal with gun violence. When we talk about gun violence, we mean this. This is the answer we get. More money for the police, more money for the courts, more money for our jail systems. Instead, we should be investing in our youth, the future, because one day you're going to be old, and they're going to take care of you. I hope it's not you. Thank you so much. And yeah, exactly. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here to support resourcing of the Regent Park Social Development Plan, often referred to as the SDP. Though not a resident of Regent Park, I've worked there for 8 years and become closely connected with a broad range of residents, agencies, and other stakeholders during that time. I'm co-chair of the Community Building Working Group under the SDP Stakeholders Table. The Social Development Plan and refreshed SDP were born of city initiatives to weave a strong social fabric along with physical revitalization. Under the city leadership, hundreds of stakeholders have been mobilized with the implication and expectation of City of Toronto funding. These are passionate people who have put, in many cases, hundreds of hours into furthering plans for creating a community where youth find mentors other than gang leaders, where people are lifted out of poverty, and where pride replaces anger, fear, shame, and hopelessness. The first gun killing of 2020 was in Regent Park, the victim another neighbourhood youth. I'm reminding you of this again to underline this is urgent. You've heard today from some of the many residents exercising leadership in these initiatives. All are passionate about Regent Park, notwithstanding challenges such as displacement, poverty, and disabilities. I've come to love and care about these diverse individuals who are acting on a promise from the City of Toronto. It is for them I'm speaking today. What is needed next is for you to move the Social Development Plan budget item inside the recommended budget to maximize its chance for final approval. The rational and ethical thing to do is to fully fund it. The SDP is an innovative model for building community, for healing the disruption caused through physical demolition and construction, for realizing the professed goals of revitalization, the alternative to gentrification. With financial support, the results will be amazing. Thank you.
I'm Salim. I'm 13, and I was here today to support the social development plan and the community benefits agreement, which is for Regent Park. We are trying to get a football team, or a sports team, or a football team inside the community of Regent Park for the youth. Can you stop? For the youth and the children, and we're trying to have a safe space so that the kids and children, the youth, don't have to always turn into like gangsters or like stuff like that.
Hi, my name's Lucy. I love Regent Park. I've been living there for, almost my whole life. And what we came here to do today is make an impact to the youth living in Regent Park and that are going to live there in the future. And just to have a safe spot for youth to go to in Regent Park that their parents worry about them or worry what's going to happen to them. So we just came here to do that. And yeah, I was nervous.
Hi, my name's Nana Yao. I love Regent Park. And today I was playing with my best friend Abby, doing gymnastics, listening to my sister do speeches, and yeah.
Hi, my name is Nater, and I live in Regent Park my whole life. And today we're supporting Regent Park, helping our community, and we're trying to make more like sports for kids, camps and stuff.
Hello, my name is Abba. I'm 14 years old and I love Regent Park. I've lived in there ever since I was a kid. And what happened here was I came here to support my community because I thought it would be nice just to come here, see if I could get more teams, because I think sports is a very big thing in the community, very big thing in the world, and it could help everybody out.
The City of Toronto approved $635,000 for implementation of the Regent Park Social Development Fund in the 2020 budget. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel. For more information, follow us on all our social media platforms, and don't forget to visit our website, as well as comment down below what you thought about this video.
Thank you.